Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live again in a place that's not Lincoln, Nebraska. So no weather concerns for me this time. Purdue just defeated Nebraska 75 to 58. You can tell that my printer is running out of color ink because the N that's supposed to be red on the box score I printed out during the press conference, which was stupid of me, is turning the same color as the strained carrots that you used to eat as a baby. And your children, when they were babies, probably used to eat. Probably better the strained carrots than strained peas. That would be really weird. This is taking a strange turn. 75-58, Purdue beats Nebraska. This is your rap video once again. It is brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Union Club Hotel, the newly reinvented Purdue Union Club Hotel. Next time you're planning a trip to campus, hopefully for a football Saturday in the fall, hopefully things are a little bit more normal then. Keep them in mind. You won't be sorry. Purdue, again, for the 8th time in 2 minutes, 75 to 58. You know, this is a game Purdue goes to with really nothing to win, nothing to gain, because it's one of those games where if you beat Nebraska, you're supposed to. It doesn't help your NCAA tournament resume. All it can do is hurt you. All it can do is knock you down a seed line if you lose. All it can do is knock you back in the Big Ten standings even more, although Purdue is, probably on the outside looking into the race, which they shouldn't have even been involved in the first place, being as young as they are. But this was a game where I thought Purdue came into not without a whole lot to gain. As it played out, I think Purdue gained an awful lot because, simply put, the single biggest thing outside of just continuing to improve, just continuing to get better as the season goes on, that Purdue needs to have happen, needs to fall into place, is to get Sasha Stefanovic back to a reasonable facsimile of what he was before he got COVID. And get settled into whatever his role might be the rest of the way. I don't know if he's going back in the starting five at any point. I do know Jaden Ivey ain't coming out. But things are going to be different, probably for him from here on out. So, for him to get back up to snuff as a player after what he went through, which is a colossal challenge, has to be. But then also for him to get settled into whatever's next for him this season, I think those two things are critically important. Purdue has so much going for it right now in terms of its young guys getting better, Travion Williams being consistent, being good, Eric Hunter really coming on lately, Purdue getting better defensively, Purdue, just a lot of stuff, a lot of positive trending going on for this Purdue team. And it's been a hell of a season so far. So for them to be trending positively at this point, positive is relative because everything's been a smashing success already as it is. But the biggest thing they need to fall into place here is for Sasha Stefanovic to do those two things I just mentioned earlier. So if the final 8:01 of this game is the trampoline Stefanovic needed to bounce off to get back to what he was before or something close to it, great. You have produced the big winner here tonight, to quote Swingers. So that's the biggest part of this. If this gives him some positive momentum, if this gives him some confidence back, I'm not suggesting he lost it, but if this gets him feeling good about things, if this gets him a bit of a rhythm, if this makes him more comfortable coming off the bench at this point, I don't know what lies ahead for his role. As I said before, Jaden Ivey's not coming to that starting five anytime soon, and I don't know if Painter would want to mess with a good thing here when they're winning and put Stefanovic somewhere else. Will he be a 30-minute a game guy again this season? I don't know. But he got dealt a bad hand by getting COVID, and now it's just a matter of making the best of it here. And if that means he has to adjust a little bit to coming off the bench, to playing fewer minutes, if this was a step in the right direction for him, doing that on top of getting back into his productive self, Purdue is a big winner here tonight because of those final 8:01. That final 8:01. 8:01 is not a plural term, so you don't say those, you say that. That didn't make any sense. Just disregard that, please. I've been sniffing glue. I don't know how many other ways I can tell you too that Jaden Ivey is very good at basketball. think I've told you since the spring of his senior year that I think he's a star, and I think he is a star. He is becoming a star, if he's not a star already. Um, but also, I think the things that make him a star are not the things that are necessarily making him a good player right now. I think he's going to be a star because he's got electric offensive ability, dynamic athleticism, just a real charisma about him. But I think also you're seeing some things in terms of him just becoming a really good all-around player too. I think his passing and his facilitating and his decision making, the past 2 games especially, have been really good relative to his experience level, relative to what he was a couple weeks ago, when he's been kind of the bull in the china shop, so to speak, at times, because that's the process involved with really aggressive and really talented scorers. But also, I think he impacted this game considerably on defense, steals, blocks, whatever it might be. Defensive statistics do not necessarily make you a good defensive player. They make you a disruptive defensive player. He has been that. Purdue has had players who have accumulated really, really significant statistics in a defensive category who weren't necessarily good defensive players otherwise. But I think he is becoming a disruptive. That's kind of creepy, isn't it? He's becoming a disruptive defensive player, as evidenced by the 3 steals in the first couple minutes of the game, which I thought set a real tone for Purdue's whole performance. 2 more block shots. He has an uncanny knack for blocking shots. But also, I think he's just getting better at guarding his man, getting better at carrying out his assignments, things like that. Team defense. He's not there yet. I'm quite certain he's not even close to where Purdue needs him to be in that regard. But I think he's getting better. And you have to keep in mind, this is a guy who, prior to getting to Lalamere, his senior year, I don't think he ever had to guard anyone. Um, he played on the UIBL circuit too in grassroots. You have to defend there. You just do. But even that stuff, even playing at Lalamere and even playing that really high level grassroots ball, it's not even remotely the same as what he's being asked to do now, as are all of Purdue's other freshmen. One of the many things that are the backdrop to the success Purdue's had this year, especially defensively, because very quietly Purdue is becoming a decent defensive team here. When you look at their numbers, you look at their metrics, you look at their results, even when they lose, they're in these low-scoring rock fights that their defense is putting them in position to win. Purdue's getting better defensively. And, that could have been an absolute train wreck this year with all the inexperience Purdue has all across the board, with some of your veterans coming back not exactly being known for their defense. That could have been a train wreck, but it's gone the other way. Purdue's done a great job. The players have done a great job. The coaches have done a great job in that regard. And I think the freshmen are all getting better. And I think Jaden Ivey is certainly getting better. And that's my whole point with him, is he's not just becoming a star because of the flashy stuff, but he's becoming a damn good all-around player, too, because of all the other stuff. Really a significant deal for Aaron Wheeler here tonight. Obviously, I can't tell you how many times I've talked about him. The energy he can give you when he's active and he's using his athleticism at the rim and not necessarily having his value tied up solely in whether or not he's making threes. I think when he's defending, when he's rebounding, when he's, again, playing at the rim, running the floor, things like that, he can be a real difference maker for this team. It just kind of comes and goes. And the fact he made a 3 tonight was obviously great. It came at a great time, but it's also not what should define him as a player. All the other stuff is where he can impact this team for the better without making another 3-pointer ever. But I'm sure everybody was very happy for him to make a tangible impact on this game. Purdue could use all the help it can get in terms of guys coming in off the bench and impacting games, especially tonight, because this isn't what Purdue's used to. Getting only 9 points in 21 minutes from Travion Williams. He'd been such a rock, so steady, so consistent. That being said, I don't think he played badly necessarily. I think Nebraska just did a really good job, kind of taking him out of the mix, so to speak, and he only got 8 shots, so it's not like he was inefficient or he just shot bad or he just played bad. I think that it was just one of those nights where, Nebraska had 3 guys guarding him and Purdue had to make threes. And, when Purdue started making threes in the final 10 minutes of the game, They took off. Had that happened in the first half, perhaps they would have won this game, by 30 or whatever, ultimately. But I think it also bears mentioning. Look at what Nebraska's dealing with here. I mean, I know nobody expected Nebraska to beat Purdue. Nobody would have expected Nebraska to beat Purdue here, but you have to give them credit for competing. This is borderline inhumane what they're being asked to do in terms of they've played like every other day for like 2.5 weeks. Um, this was a hell of a break for them because not only did they have a couple days since they returned from Maryland to prepare for this game, but they were also at home. So they didn't have to get on a plane as they're playing all these games. And when you're at Nebraska and you come home and then you go back out for another road game, think all that time you're spending in an airplane and just traveling. So I'm sure it was good for them to have a couple of days in Lincoln before playing a game. I think they'll have a couple more before their next game, but this is just a really tough spot Nebraska's in. But that's the nature of 2020, 2021, I guess. But you have to give them a lot of credit for competing. They have every reason in the world to lose every game they play the rest of the year. The fact they beat Penn State, the fact that they should have beaten Illinois, which is probably more about Illinois than it was Nebraska, knowing Illinois. But the fact that they were down 11 in the first half to Purdue and they close on a 10-2 run, go on a 15-2 run over the two halves, and actually take the lead in the second half, I think it speaks volumes about the fact that they're not rolling over when they have every reason in the world to. So credit to them for playing well enough to make this game interesting when they're obviously in a world of hurt right now from a circumstantial perspective. So that's kind of what I got here from Purdue's 75-58 win at Nebraska. It's been a very hectic day. I went down and covered Caleb First's game at Crispus Attucks. Tipped off at 2:30. Got back to West Lafayette in time for the 5:30 tip-off here. That's a whole high school basketball game, followed by the 30 to 40 minutes it takes to get post-game interviews done, combined with the hour-long trip to my math probably isn't adding up here, so I apologize. Combined with the hour-long trip back home, I want to thank publicly Blackhawk Christian and Crispus Attucks for hurrying it along so that I could get back here in time for this game. And I want to thank you also for watching, for listening, and for reading. I came up working for a magazine, and reading is the one I forget. This has been your goldenblack.com rap video following Purdue's 75-58 win over Nebraska. It's been brought to you by our friends at the newly reinvented Purdue Union Club Hotel. Next time you're planning a trip to campus, hopefully for a football game in the fall, I'll repeat myself, please keep them in mind. You won't be sorry. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again whenever Purdue plays again. I know they have a couple days off, but I haven't even looked at the schedule. Is it Wisconsin? I think it's Wisconsin. Anyway, see you.